Welcome to Musing with Tanya D podcast. Once again, I am your host, a practicing holistic shaman, medium, and otherworldly life coach and subtle energetic surgeon. My intention is to utilize the power of indigenous technologies, the ancient wisdom of our bones, our original divine blueprint to navigate through our soul's harmonic, the realm of the elementals, the elemental highway, into and through the imaginal realm, possibly reintroducing you to the magical being I believe resides within each and every one of us, unique and as individual as our thumbprint. Through these subtle realms and bodies, the energetic anatomy to raise our frequency to the prime directive, to our inner genius, our personal medicine. I do call myself a holistic shaman medium, which is a choreography of merging them all. My name is Tanya D, and welcome to my podcast, Medicine Room. I do go live on YouTube at Tanya D for a daily snippet. Each day I share the element of the day coming from the 4 pillars of Chinese astrology or destiny. These 4 pillars are actually a gateway into the realm of your personal elemental highway, and you may be wondering or pondering why that's so very important. Well, once you understand or have an idea of the elementals, you can then utilize them for healing a variety of symptoms and conditions and balancing our personal elements with our gift and our purpose, our prime directive, whether it's our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings, our spirit, our mental academy, energy, vitality, transformation, and so much more. It's all part of the cosmic soup. The spirit that resides within each element is also a part of our elemental structure or foundation, along with these subtle energies, bodies, and fields and cosmic insights, messages, and so much more, might I add. So going beyond being inspired and just loving the season of the witches, nature's transformation, the magic, the variety of guests that I've actually had and literally enjoyed during the season, this podcast season. That's why I do title the show The Musing with Tanya D, because it's about musing. So if there's anybody that you wish to hear from again that really got you excited about life and really your own magical essence that resides within each and every one of us, please comment and share and let me know. And of course, stay curious, questioning everything. That is also one of my mantras. My guest for this week's episode is the CowGIRL Shaman, Terri Jay. She is a intuitive life coach. She receives messages for us from her guides and from your guides and your higher self to assist you with your life's question. She's been doing intuitive life coaching for thousands of clients for many years with amazing results. She has zero ego in the process and just works to stay out of her own way and allow the information to come through her. This way, Terri can receive the information and the insight that is specific for her clients, whether they have questions about finances, relationships, career, health, or their own spiritual journey, their life path. Terri knows that the only reason we are here is to grow spiritually, and oftentimes this can be very difficult when faced with life's challenges. I call them energetic hiccups, and sometimes it's all we can do to get through each day. Once we go into surrender and forgiveness and compassion and realize that we are not in charge of our lives anyway, we can let go and let God and find the joy and the happiness that is all around each and every one of us. So with all of that, let's give a shout out to Terri Jay, the CowGIRL Shaman. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited that you wanted to join me for the season of the witches in 2023. So what's your personal background? Tell us your story.
I've been a horse person my whole life. And in 1990, I was doing a horseback therapy program with disabled kids. And I picked a kid up out of his wheelchair and put him on the back of one of my horses. And he said, "Ouch, I have a cramp in my hip." And I looked at him and I said, "You have a cramp? Well, here, sit this way. It'll take the cramp out." And he said, "Hey, you can hear me." I said, "Well, of course I can hear you." It didn't dawn on me at the time that he was completely nonverbal. So we just carried on this wonderful conversation, and it really had nothing to do with horseback therapy. It had to do with like the school play and his little girlfriend and all these things that were going on in his life. And it was pretty interesting. But anyway, we were done. I took him off the horse and put him back in his wheelchair, and he went back to class. And the gal who was helping me at the time said, "Boy, he's sure talking great." And I said, "Well, he's very bright. Just because he has CP doesn't necessarily mean he has any cognitive issues." And she looked at me and she said, "Terri, he didn't say a word. He can't, remember?" And I mean, if I was a horse, I would have done a buck fart snort because I was spooked. And so I went into the classroom and they had put this pointer on his head and he had typed out on his computer, "Horse lady can hear me." So I had instant confirmation that I was in fact hearing, unspoken communication. So
So
that was
is
my first time.
so you're clairaudient. That's your main gift?
No, no, I got all the clairs. I
Oh,
didn't know there were
okay.
limitations.
Oh, okay.
Somebody asked me one time, I was in a bookstore, and she said, I was doing readings at a bookstore. This is like, 25 years ago. She goes, "Are you clairaudient or clairsentient or clairvoyant?" And I went, yeah. And she was so funny. She goes, "You can't be all of it." I said, "Well, I didn't get that memo." We're all
Yeah,
born
that
with all of them. We're all intuitive, clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairaudient, and claircognizant. We all have all of them. We shut them off in childhood, so we just need to learn to turn them back on.
absolutely. So were you fairly young when you became aware of your abilities?
Oh no, I was older than dirt, really. I was, God, I don't know. I've been at this 33 years, so since 1990, and I'm really, really old. So
So did you have something that kind of triggered them into like releasing?
no, no, it was just that. And that sort of started me on my journey where, and there were really, I wanted to just do animal communication. And you know how man plans, God laughs. And so there really weren't any books, about how to develop your abilities. I think there was one called "You Are Psychic" by Pete Sanders Jr. And I never liked the name, the word psychic, never have. It's just got such a bad reputation. And then I think there was one called "Talking with Horses" by Henry Blake. But that was more like body language and stuff. It still wasn't getting down to the fact that all animals are telepathic. It just wasn't getting there. So a lot of it was just trial and error. And I did have two energy healers sort of help me along early on too. And that really helped because they really told me get out of ego and no stake in the outcome and make sure you've got really good ethics and those kinds of things that are really important, to your practice.
Could you share us some insight into I see that like the Paul T. Goldman, the character and your role in the series?
This was really an experience. I'll tell you what. If I would have known it was going to go the way it did, I wouldn't have been in it. Seriously. I started doing readings for Paul back in 2005. He had gotten married and then things were not going well in his relationship. And so he was calling me for guidance, in readings. And so I was just kind of shocked at what I was getting, that his brand new bride was not who she said she was. And so he had my permission and he recorded all of the sessions that we did. And I told him from the get go, I said, "She feels like a hooker." And he said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, it's like she wants to get paid for sex, but she doesn't want the money on the dresser. She wants your stuff. She wants your assets." And so that was like the first thing that got him going. And then I just worked with him through his divorce and all of that. And, just encouraging him. And I told him to write a book. I said, "Keep track of all this and write a book." And then he turned it into a screenplay too. And then he was able to sell the screenplay and play himself, in the series. So he calls it a docu-dramedy because it's a documentary, a drama, and a comedy all at once.
Life kind of is a comedy, isn't it?
Yeah, it was all three of those things. And I was just really honored that they got Dee Wallace to play me in the drama part because a lot of people don't know this about her, but she's all into energy healing and doing readings. And I mean, she was great. It was great meeting her. They flew me down to LA to watch her play me. And that was weird. It was just, I kept going, "I said that." It was really fun. It was just fun.
So it sounds like you recorded everything then. So they had great screenplay.
Well, yeah, he kept the audio tapes, of every reading that I did for him. He's still got the cassette deck and the little cassettes, So
Oh,
they used
wow.
those a lot in the series too.
So can you give us some examples of the different hats that you wear besides I know there's intuition, mediumship, animal communicator, etc.
I have found that I can pretty much do everything except find lost keys. I know I can't do that, but I do everything except predictions and police work. I won't do predictions because my feeling, and I'm very strong about this, is that because of the law of attraction and how it works, any predictions, good or bad, are incredibly, incredibly unethical. So I won't do predictions of any kind. And because of this show, I still get a lot of people calling me going, "What do you see for me?" And it's like, "No, I'm going to refund your money for canceling the reading. I'm not doing this." It's unethical. And that's what they expect from normal readers. And I'm not, obviously not normal. And the other thing I won't do is police work because it's so negative. If you're going to get anything, you have to really get it from the perpetrator. And I can't tune into that negativity. I can't watch any violence. I can't be around violence. I'm just too sensitive to it. So those are the only two things that I won't do. But I love animal communication. I specialize in horses, and on top of that, even barrel horses. I have a lot of professional barrel racers that are my clients that go to the National Finals Rodeo every year. And I love talking with dogs and cats, and I even find lost pets. So
Oh,
I
wow.
just pretty much cover the gambit. One of the other things that I love doing is medical and veterinary intuition. And I'm able to see things and feel things. I don't diagnose, I don't prescribe, but I can tell you what I feel. And the information's been really helpful for people, that have like a competition horse that they're trying to get back going again. And even just for, backyard horses that are having problems. So I love doing that. And I love helping people find the issues in the tissues, the emotional cause of their dis-ease. And then I've got techniques they can use to release it and heal themselves. It's great.
So you do this for your clients and the horses kind of simultaneously?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's really funny because it seems like every time I do an animal reading, I have to go, can we talk about your stuff for a minute? And see if they're open to it. Because a lot of people, they don't want to hear stuff about themselves. They want to just focus on the animals. That's okay. And, if I've got extra time, then I'll still, kind of say, you need to do something about this. You have this stuck negative emotion. People get stuck in grief. They're still dealing with disempowerment from childhood, which is humongous. A lot of women, 70 to 80% of women are abused or molested at some point in their life. And they hang on to that negativity, and they need to release it. Otherwise, it causes health problems.
So do you prescribe rituals for that? Like, what's your method?
Letter writing mostly, because they all involve loss of power. So I just tell them that they need to write letters to the people that hurt them and tell them off and use lots of bad words, and then burn the letter and say out loud, nobody's ever going to treat me like that again. And that's how you take your power back. It's a very simple method. It is not easy, but it really has dramatic, dramatic results.
So what's your reaction to skeptics?
It's just not my job to convince. And I would never tell someone how to believe. And I came at this as a huge skeptic. I mean, the day that I heard that little kid talk to me, you could have knocked me over with a feather, because I never had any other exposure or occurrences like that happen to me. So, I had to have the experience myself in order to make me a believer. But then the more I got into it, parts of it made me uncomfortable, but parts of it is like, wait a minute, this is just physics. And finding out that it was just physics, really, that was the selling point for me, is that, physics I can do, woo woo, can't do woo woo, no woo woo.
So why do you call your work physics?
Everything is energy, frequency, and vibration.
Right. The quantum
So
field.
everything's physics. So, you can say that about anything. That's why I even have trouble with people that have such strong religious beliefs, because like, God is physics and ain't a guy with a beard on a cloud. And too many people, they just don't get it.
Can you teach these abilities to others? Is that something you do, or you kind of just show them, or do you just give them, like I said, a prescription, a ritual?
I have 3 books that I've written to teach people how to do this. I learned how to do it. And then once I learned how to do it, then I've always been a teacher, and I thought, okay, so what am I doing? How can I describe what I'm doing? So that other people can, learn to open to their own abilities. And that's why I have the 3 books that they teach people how to do all of this work. And I got a 4th in the process, and then I've got 2 more after that. The one I'm writing now is about communication with dogs. Then I'm going to do horses and then cats. So I'm going to cover the spectrum. But the first book I wrote, The CowGIRL Shaman Way, 7 Easy Steps to Develop Your Intuitive Ability, that one teaches you how to do everything that I do. And then I kind of break it down and go into specifics with the next 2 books. One's on mediumship and one is on communicating with people that can't. Because we have 7 to 9 million people that can't communicate. So the second book, Intuitive Communication, Communicating with Those Who Cannot, is specifically for caregivers, first responders, and medical personnel. And it teaches you how to communicate with somebody who's not conscious or aware. So they all have the same instructions. It's always the 7 steps. And so if you follow those 7 steps, you can learn to do this. The thing is that people think these are special or gifts, and I do not agree with that. We're all born with it. We shut it off in childhood because we freak somebody out. And then it's just a matter of learning to turn it back on.
Don't you think, too, that it's persecution from another lifetime, that we were condemned for having these abilities? And so we got shut down, and then we get reborn into a new timeline to activate them again and put them to use?
I would not argue one iota of that, because I think all of the people that do this at some point in their lives were witches. And same things with energy healers too. Same thing, because it's like now it's safe. It's safe to do this now.
Yeah, we're not coined as crazy or woo-woo so much anymore.
Well, not so much, but we still are.
So can you give us some anecdotes or examples of how you do read pets or horses or people? Like, what's your process?
I have to do grounding, which involves visualization with intention. And I do that. And then I just need the name of the animal, how old, what breed, or species, and what's going on with it. And just by that person doing that little bit of talking about them, I can feel into that energetic connection to the animal. So I go through the human with unconditional love. And then when they start talking about their animal that they obviously love, then I can feel the animal through them. And it's really fun, and it's really amazing to do it. I think my TV show should be called I Can't Make This Stuff Up, but I want to use the other S word because the stuff is so specific.
The shift. I can't make the shift up.
Yeah, that one. Close. Sounds like first syllable.
So how can you communicate with people who cannot? Is that mostly telepathy or clairaudience, or do you go through symbols or sigils?
I really think it's just a matter of listening faster. And if I could give guidance to people, that would be the biggest piece of this freaking puzzle, is if you're doing it telepathically, and all animals are telepathic, we're the ones at a disadvantage here to do animal communication. But people need to learn to listen faster. We get too much into our question or too much into our thought that we want to share. And with animals, a mental conversation with an animal sounds like this. Hey, what about, are you, that fast, they're bringing, they're responding to you. And so most people, they get too much into their question, and so they're missing the response. And I think that's the biggest problem that people have with this. And I've even looked at other people's training materials. Nobody's teaching it. I mean, it's the most important part about it is to listen faster. They're not.
Like the quickening and the listening. I call that thought surfing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, if I could, give people guidance, that would be the first thing, is just listen faster. Don't get so much into your question that you're not listening.
Yeah, I find that too. Sacred space and heartfelt listening, right? Being authentic in your listening.
Yeah. But the speed, that's what confuses people the most, because it seems like when it flies into your head is when we don't trust it. We go, oh, that was too fast. That's not me. And that is you receiving that information really fast. So I really encourage people, just whatever you get fast. And then, of course, trust your gut, because behind the stomach, we have a nerve bundle that acts like a microwave dish where we can receive information actually into our physical body. And that's why you get those gut feelings and feel like, oh, every time I don't trust my gut, I get in trouble. Well, no, duh, you know, you need
Yeah,
to,
absolutely.
yeah.
So your book, Intuitive Communication, who is that book for? Who did you write that for?
The intuitive communication one is for medical personnel, first responders, and caregivers. So that, because, we just don't think about this. There's 7 to 9 million people in the United States that can't communicate, even with technology and using communication devices. It's just really important for people to develop that ability so that they can communicate with people that can't. And
Well, I
there's so many
believe,
people. Go ahead.
go ahead. I,
There's so
I
many
was just,
people with like traumatic brain injuries and people in a persistent vegetative state, or God forbid, locked in, where they're in there, but they just can't communicate at all. It really bridges that void of lack of communication, and allows you to really know how they're doing.
yeah. And I find that people, they communicate differently. What am I? So, like, it's not going to be the English language.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It might be, but other times it's pulses of information. It's a visual image, a mini video, a smell, a taste, a sound. I was talking to a guy that he was in a coma and dying from a brain tumor. And it was so cute. He goes, tell them to quit making freaking popcorn every day. They were making microwave popcorn and the smell was driving him nuts. And he still had a feeding tube, but he's like, you're not going to put popcorn in a feeding tube. He's not going to be able to taste it anyway. And then the other thing he asked for, which is so bizarre, I told the client, I asked him, I said, who had a baby? Who's got a baby? And she told me, and I said, this is going to sound really weird, but he wants you to put the baby's head up to his nose because baby's head smells so good. And he actually asked for that. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Sensory. I love it.
Yeah.
So, are there privacies that you're like totally unwilling to share, or are you open and uncensored when you communicate?
Oh, I listen to guidance, really, because there's so many times I'm given information, and just as I'm about to open my mouth and share it, I hear and that it's not in their best interest to get the information. So then I won't. I really abide by what I get from guidance. They keep me on the straight and narrow. So there are times when I get stuff and it's like, "Ugh." The other thing too that really pisses me off is that when I'm given wrong information and told to share it. Oh my God, the arguments. I could write a whole book called Arguing with My Guides. I really could. Oh heavens. Because there's times when I'm told, tell them. They just say, tell them, tell them, tell them. And it's like, but isn't that right? And they go, tell them, tell them. It's really cute though, too, because the client will get back to me and go, hey, remember that reading you did for me? Oh yeah, you're the one that I was given the wrong information on. You knew it was wrong? Yeah, did you have a good outcome? You aren't going to believe this. And they tell me how that wrong information gave them the most unbelievably positive outcome. So that's why I don't question it anymore.
Yeah, we get in our own magical way.
Yes, for sure.
So, what is your next step in the career development with the Paul T. Goldman? So, is that like the title, Paul T. Goldman series?
That is the name of the series, and it's on Peacock. And I'm very much in the third, some in the fourth, a little bit, and then I'm lambasted in the sixth. They really, but I can't talk bad about the show. So
Absolutely. Right.
I just tell people, not all of it's true. Not all of it is true. So it's just, just get what you want out of it. It's at the very least, it's entertaining.
Well, yeah, sounds like it's going to be fantastic. What are your future plans?
Well, I'm actually trying to get my own show so that I can help thousands of people instead of just one at a time. There's so many times I'll do a reading on a Tuesday and I think, oh, that was great. That really helped them. And then comes on Friday and I think, didn't I just do this reading? Everything about this is familiar. And so it's somebody with the same kind of issues, same kind of problems. And I feel like I'm, I should just hit, the play button and do a repeat of what I did on Tuesday. So a lot of people have the same issues and the same problems. And so I think the information that we get, especially about energy healing, I think it just can be life-changing, for people.
What if you did like a collective and like have the theme of your collective insight and have people sign up that way? That way you could do a collective through Zoom or something.
I've actually thought about it, but I'm working 6 days a week as it is, doing readings full time. So I do 3 or 4 hours in the morning and 3 or 4 hours at night. Middle of the day I use for, other things that I've got to get done. And I don't have any extra time. I mean, and Sundays is my writing day. So that's when I'm working on the next book.
I was just thinking like all those people you have signed up for the whole week, you sign them up for like 1-2 hours all together and just whip it.
My clients deal with so many personal things I don't think they'd want to share. We're going to have to really, get to the nitty gritty of what they're comfortable with and not before I do a reading for them. I won't know anything about it. I don't want to know any information ahead of time when I'm going to do a reading. Even now I'm like that. People send me photos and I just delete them. I don't want to know. I don't want any information ahead of time. I just want to connect energetically, not to anything in the physical realm.
I gotcha. So is there anything else that your heart would love to share with my audience?
I would really encourage everybody to develop their own abilities, and that we all have all of these abilities. We just shut them off. So we need to learn to turn them back on. And the big things that I want to share is make sure you've got airtight ethics. And you want to take the woo-woo out of it, base it in physics, and always think of, is this healing? Is this helping? And if it's not, don't do it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Terri, for sharing your insights today and your journey. It sounds fantastic. I love it. You speak my language. And I will have all of her info in the show notes so you can connect with her. And if this episode inspired you in some magical way, and I'm sure it did, please tag at the Tanya D on your Instagram account, and I will see you on the other side. Ashe, blessings. And remember, if your heart feels called, and I'm sure it is, to donate to the Musing with Tanya D podcast, the link is in the show notes to keep this momentum flowing. And again, I will see you on the other side, and it's just a reminder to pay it forward. Blessings. Ashe.